Hey Brandon, so we have an example of a father and son, great kings, King David and King Solomon, but they both, the Bible shows example of both of them sinning. Which sin was greater?
I mean, if we're trying to look at it objectively, I would probably say Solomon. And the reason for that is not necessarily the sin of itself, because it's hard to say that there is an inherent sin hierarchy, right? We know that there's abominations to the Lord, and then we know that there's sin and things like that. But I think if we look at the behavior and the response, David had the heart after God. We don't see that in Solomon, right? While David sinned, we see in his writings and his behavior that he continually repented. He was concerned with the presence of God in his life. He was always, he was very, very self-aware, saying, you know what, I'm a sinner. I'm struggling with these. God, help me. Turn me into someone that's not doing these things, that type of stuff. But with Solomon, we really see God give Solomon wisdom, and then we see Solomon kind of just take that and really worship the wisdom and live after that. And then eventually he fell away. And interestingly enough, if you look in 1 Kings 11 and we read, this is a response from the Lord to Solomon. He says, because you have done this and have not kept my covenant and my statutes, which I have commanded you, I will certainly tear the kingdom away from you and give it to your servant. However, I will not do it in your lifetime for the sake of your father David, but I will tear it out of the hand of your son Rehoboam. However, I will not tear away all the kingdom. I will give one tribe, Judah, to your son for the sake of my servant David, and for the sake of Jerusalem, which I have chosen. Because of Solomon's sins, he brought idolatry into the temple. He brought the pagan practices that were set up in a place that was supposed to be holy, and as a result, it divided the kingdom. So I would say that while equally sin is bad, and David did bad things, David was more repentant, and he really wanted to stay in the presence with God, and Solomon didn't have that same attitude. He didn't have that same sentiment when it came to his relationship with God, and he ended up, while he was wise beyond his years, the wisdom that God had given to him, it didn't sink in, and he still at the end of his days made some pretty heavy mistakes that upset God, and because of that it split the kingdom. So I would say, while David passed on some wisdom, Solomon had made some serious mistakes, and that was only one generation removed. So